Karen was stealing my ranch electricity until Sheriff shut down her house in front of everyone. The desert sun had barely crested the hills when I first noticed the strange readings on my ranch's electricity monitor. My ranch wasn't just a home, it was my livelihood. The cattle, the barn lights, the irrigation pumps, all of it depended on the solar grid I had worked years to install. Every single panel had been paid for in sweat and sacrifice. So when I saw my energy consumption spike by nearly double without any new equipment running, I knew something wasn't right. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake. Maybe my system was malfunctioning, or perhaps the utility company had botched a reading. But as the days passed, the numbers got worse. I was watching hundreds of dollars worth of electricity vanish, power I had generated myself. It wasn't long before I traced the problem. A faint, almost hidden line ran along my property fence. Following it one late evening, flashlight in hand, I discovered something that made my blood boil. The line ran directly into the property of Karen, the self-proclaimed queen of our HOA. Karen was infamous in our community. She was the type who made rules for everyone else but never followed them herself. If a child left a bike in the driveway, she fined their parents. If a homeowner planted flowers not approved by the HOA, she demanded they dig them up. But Karen lived extravagantly, brand new Tesla in her driveway, outdoor pool always lit up like a resort, and yet she constantly complained about how unfairly the HOA treated her. Now I understood her secret. She wasn't paying her fair share because she was stealing mine. The discovery shook me. It wasn't just about the electricity, it was about respect. I had poured my heart and soul into this land. My father had handed me the ranch on the condition that I take care of it and never let anyone walk all over us. Karen had crossed that line. I decided to confront her, but I wanted to do it calmly. One afternoon, I walked up her driveway. She met me at the door with her usual smug expression. "Karen," I said, holding up a picture of the illegal line, "I think you know what this is." Her smile never faltered. "Oh, don't be ridiculous. That's just a utility line. Probably nothing. Karen, it's running from my ranch to your house. You've been stealing my electricity. You need to disconnect it immediately." Instead of denying it, she laughed. "Listen, cowboy, you make more electricity than you could ever need. What's the harm if a little of it powers my home? Think of it as community sharing." I clenched my jaw. "That's not sharing. That's theft." She waved me off, telling me if I pushed the issue, she would bring the full weight of the HOA down on me. For a moment, I considered letting it slide. Fighting Karen meant fighting the entire HOA board, most of whom were in her pocket. But that night, as I sat on my porch staring out over the land my father had worked for decades, I knew I couldn't. My father had been a man of principle, and I had to honor that. So I called the sheriff. Sheriff Daniels was an old friend of my father's. He was tough, honest, and didn't care much for HOA politics. After showing him the pictures, the power readings, and even the line itself, he promised he'd handle it. "Stealing electricity is a serious crime," he said. "And if Karen thinks she can bully the town, she's about to get a wake-up call." The next morning, the sheriff showed up at Karen's house with 2 deputies and a crew from the electric company. Word must have spread quickly because half the neighborhood gathered to watch. Karen stormed out of her front door in her bathrobe, furious. "What is the meaning of this?" she shrieked. "Sheriff." Daniels stood tall, hands on his belt. "Karen, you've been caught stealing electricity from your neighbor's ranch. We're shutting down your illegal line and issuing you a citation. If you interfere, you'll be arrested." The electric company workers cut the line right in front of everyone. Sparks popped, and the crowd gasped. Karen's face turned red with humiliation. Her porch lights flickered out, her pool pumps whined to a stop, and her big Tesla charger went dead. For the first time, her empire of arrogance had gone dark. Karen screamed, called it harassment, and threatened lawsuits. But no one in the crowd sided with her. They'd all been victims of her HOA tyranny, and now they were watching her get what she deserved. In the days that followed, things changed in the neighborhood. People who had once been silent began speaking up. HOA board members who had supported Karen started to distance themselves. The sheriff's bold action had shown everyone that Karen wasn't untouchable. As for me, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Standing up to her wasn't just about electricity, it was about protecting the dignity of my family, my ranch, and my father's legacy. One evening, I sat on my porch again, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The cattle were grazing peacefully, the barn lights glowing steadily from the power I had earned. No more stolen electricity, no more intimidation. Karen's house stayed dark for weeks until she finally paid to reconnect legally. Even then, her reputation never recovered. People whispered when she walked by, not out of fear, but out of pity. The lesson was clear: bullies thrive when good people stay silent. But the moment you stand your ground, even the strongest bully crumbles. And that's how I learned that justice doesn't just come from courts or laws, it comes from the courage to defend what's right, no matter the odds.